Okay, so now we're recording. So we're going to take a look at Muse and get an introduction to that interface. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the Muse site I built, and we're going to open that Muse so I can show you kind of the structure. So this is a personal site that I built in Muse just to sort of experiment with it and see kind of what I could do. So here we go. So it's loading. You can see I have a favicon icon, so that's something you can do here that you can't necessarily do with Wix unless you pay for it. I have like an opening page. If I expand it, I've got an infinite footer down there, so that's going to keep going. And then I have a few pages, so I have a hovering menu bar here. I can go to the About section. I've just got mostly text here, but I have a tabbed panel that fades in and out between the two pieces of content. I also have a download link that will open a resume PDF, which is loading a little slow, but there it is. I have another page that links to my other website, which is an HTML site that I built differently. But you can see I have a little slider here. I also have a link there and a link there. I have a contact page with a working contact form that has these sort of nice hover effects. I've also got these social media icons that you can hover and click as well. But the most important part, and the part that's going to matter most to you guys, is the gallery. So this might load a little slow today because of our internet, but I'll let you take a peek at kind of how this looks. So come on, gallery. Normally you won't really have a problem with the loading of these because it does compress everything to web-sized images, so you don't even really have to worry about batching things other than making sure you've added a watermark. So this is the gallery here. So I have all these little overlays, and then when you click an item, it pops up in a Lightbox style gallery. You can see I've even sort of styled this little X here, and you can kind of click through the gallery, you can click out to exit, and then you can click between these tabs to bring up additional galleries, which is really nice feature. So this was a little bit more, this is a very complex gallery. I would call this an advanced Muse gallery because I had to build this with a lot of different elements inside other elements, and it was a little complicated. But that doesn't mean that you can't create something equally beautiful and elegant. Really the most difficult part was getting this multi-shaped boxes because it's easy to create one with just a grid, but when you have to do something unique like these boxes, it's a little more challenging. So that's my example of a Muse site that I built to sort of explore it. So let's actually open Muse and take a look at the interface a little bit, and I'll show you kind of what the actual site looks like in the editing process so you can compare. So it says a new one, not worried about that. So let's check out Muse CC. So Muse only came into being with CC, so you won't find a CS6 version of this. I think there's now a newer one. There's a new CC, but for now this is it. So when you open up, you get something that feels a little similar to Dreamweaver in that you will have, it asks you if you want to create a new site or open a recent site. There isn't all that complex stuff about picking HTML or template or PHP. All of that stuff is hidden. It's actually pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, for now, just open my current site if it'll find it. It says this document contains 8 links that are modified. I'll click OK to modify those. And this is kind of what pulls up. So you're actually going to get a site map, which is going to show you your pages, and then you can just double click to bring them up and you can work on them. So you can see that the look I have here is pretty indicative of what you're actually seeing on the web. There's no like mystery to kind of what's going to show up for the most part. You can see I have all these sort of like little adjustable margins. I've got some items up here. I've got a header and I've got a footer section. And I can come back to my sitemap and go to the other pages as well. So I could go to the About page. I can see things, and to edit stuff, I kind of just got to click on it, and I can get to it that way. There's also layers and sort of library and assets and things like that. So it's actually pretty simple to work with. Now that being said, one of the nicest features about Muse is, one, it's similar to InDesign for those of you who know InDesign, but two, that you can create different versions of your site really easily by just clicking the tab. So I have actually, it did not build these, I actually had to go in by hand and make each of these, but it does set it up pretty quickly. So it sets up a vertical version of your site for tablet. Now it doesn't give you the opportunity, at least yet, for you to make the alternate rotational version. So you don't have a horizontal version. It will just make the vertical, and then when you put it on the tablet, it will sort of just adjust it automatically the best way it knows how. It doesn't give you that alternate rotation version. But you can also create a phone layout, and you can see that my phone layout is definitely a little different. So I have a different type of menu. It looks like one of my typefaces is missing here. I got to reinstall that because it was an icon-based typeface. But it's all there. So I can come back to this layer. I can look at all of these different things. You can see I set up the gallery a little different. I actually have a tabbed gallery this time, so it's a little simpler. Let's see what else. So same concept, contact form. You can copy and paste elements in between the different layouts. It's pretty easy to work with. So that is kind of what the site looks like once you've made it. Now the making it part is a little bit harder, but I feel like this particular program is a lot more intuitive than Dreamweaver. It's not quite probably as intuitive as maybe Wix, because Wix is much simpler, but you have so much more design freedom here in how you build your site that it makes this a really nice happy medium between the two options. So using something online like Format or Wix or Squarespace or something like that is going to be your easiest, but this is going to give you the freedom to actually design something and include that in your portfolio as something you've actually made. So the one other thing I want to mention here is that when you're building this, it works like InDesign in that you will create master pages. So these are your templates. The templates are where you can edit sort of your layout options of like where the header is, where the footer is, and all of that. And then you apply your masters to your pages and then build content up from there. So you'll notice when I come to these pages, I can't mess with the header here. I can't scoot the navigation out of the way because it's on a locked master page. So that's the only other thing you should see kind of from here. So I'm going to not save anything, and we're going to start from scratch. So when we come into Muse, the first thing we want to create is a new site, just like Dreamweaver, new site. So we click new site, and it gives us some options. So you're able to set your page width and your minimum height and your margins and padding and columns right here. You can use the settings just as they are. It's up to you. I usually like to make my pages 1,000 because it's an easy number to remember and it just makes my math a little simpler, but really 960 is perfectly fine. It's pretty standard. Go with what you're comfortable with. You can see one column is fine because it's only going to be one column page. You can add margins. I don't really mess with most of this stuff, but you can just leave it and see how you like it. You can always come back and change it. So once you've set sort of the minimum height is only a min height because as you add more content, the page will scroll. That's the nature of web pages. So it just gives you a minimum so that the site won't collapse past that and get like a little skinny sliver of a site. Then you click OK, and it's going to bring up this. So currently we don't have a tablet or a phone version, so we see the pluses. And here we have our page. So we have a couple options of where to start. The first thing we probably want to do is add and name the pages that we know are going to be part of the site. So we can click here to insert a page to the right or here to insert a page down. This doesn't actually do anything different about how they're linked or how they work together. It's for your organizational purposes as to whether you go up or down. Typically for pages that go next to it are going to be linked to it. You're going to go this way, and if you have sub pages, like let's say this is gallery and you have gallery 1 and gallery 2, you're going to go below like this. There's not really a special way you're going to want to do that, but basically you can select your pages, expand them out, and then name them. So this one's going to be called home. It's going to automatically save the file as index, and then you might want to create the pages like gallery. Let's capitalize that. Gallery, about, and maybe contact. So this is kind of the minimum pages you would want to create for your portfolio site. Now once you've built the structure in, so let's say like maybe we're going to have a sub gallery. So maybe this will be the gallery page, and in the sub gallery we'll have portraits, and then below that we'll have landscape. So let's say we have 2 different photo galleries we want to have access to from here. So now that you've created the skeleton for your site, all you need to do is save it. And now when you save this, it will save as a Muse file. That's what's kind of important here, is you can name it whatever you want. So I'll call this like photo site. You can save it wherever you want. You still want to probably save it into a folder where all your assets are going to go because it's going to start moving your assets for you. So I'll call this photo site. I'm actually going to click over here and create a new folder on the desktop, and I'll call that one, if I can get to it, photo site, just so I have somewhere to save it. And now I'll see that pop up here. I can save it inside there, and it will be called photosite.muse. Now, when you want to actually save it as an HTML file, you just have to export it. So you export it as HTML. So just remember that. So for the time you're working on your site, it's going to save as a Muse site. But when you're ready to export it and becomes an HTML site, you won't need Muse anymore. Once it's exported, it will function perfectly fine in any other program. You can actually even go into Dreamweaver and look at the code. So I'm actually going to see if I can show you what that looks like. So if I open Dreamweaver, I'm going to open the code for one of my other sites just so you can see kind of how the code is written. So if I come here, I can find that this is my Muse site that I just showed you. And if I grab index.html and I open it, you can kind of see that the code, this does not look like what you think it's going to look like. And you can see all the code here. So the code's not necessarily very clean. There's a lot of JavaScript. There's all kinds of divs that it built, list items, names, all kinds of unusual stuff. So the code is not very easy to edit. That is something you want to be aware of. If you know exactly what you're doing and you know JavaScript, you could probably come back in here and edit some stuff. I can tell, look how many different scripts are written with it. So in addition to index.html, we have global site CSS. So look at all that CSS that got written. We have another CSS. We have another CSS. We have a JavaScript file, another JavaScript file, and another JavaScript file. So this is writing a lot of code, and it's not very easy to come in on the back end and mess with this. So once you've finished it, you kind of want to just let it be and upload it as it is and continue to edit from the Muse site in Muse. So that's just something to be aware of. So once you've saved that, then you're ready to go on and start adding content to your pages. But before you even add content, you really want to start adding content to your master first. So when you come to your master page, you can see that you get just a blank page here, and you have these little guidelines. If you hover over them, they'll tell you what they are. So this one says header, drag to adjust position. Items in the header appear at the top of the page above the page content. So this is exactly like a header in Dreamweaver, except you can just do this to get it to be the size you want. So it's really intuitive and really easy. This here, if we hover over it, says footer. This one is bottom of the page, drag to adjust minimum page size, so we can actually make our page size larger if we need to. And then this one is bottom of the browser, drag to adjust the padding below the page. So, and this one's top of browser. So you can really come into your master page and make any adjustments you want to get your page to look the way you want. So if you want to actually make it 600, you can come bring it that way. Drop your header down maybe to 550, so you have 50.1 there. You can adjust the browser bottom to hit there as well, so you can kind of layer them on top of each other if you want a certain look. Bring that all the way up.
I need to borrow Raymond's